sans dire à tout.
What is going on, jerk faces? This is your boy Andy, and you are watching the Nocturnal transmissions presented to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. Today is, I know we're starting a little bit later, but we have a very special guest with us today. If you are a fan of the podcast, you might recognize him as Dan the Man.
Hey, hey.
Yes, and of course the homie Robert, as always.
What's going on, guys?
Yes, Nocturnal transmission, the conversation you could be having during the day, but choosing to have at night. So let's get this conversation started. So, well, I guess since we haven't seen much of you, Dan, I guess we'll start off with you and just ask how's things going?
Pretty good. Nice to be back. I was away for the summer. I hope all our jerk faces and extended viewers miss me. But what I was actually doing over the summer is my primary job, which is that I work for a summer camp, one of the Jewish summer camps, Camp Ramah in Ojai, California. And these days I've done all kinds of things for them, typical cabin counselor, running different activities. In the last couple of years, I've been working as the best job, the athletic director for them. So, as you may or may not imagine, if you've ever either gone to or worked at a summer camp, the athletic director, especially of a Jewish summer camp, is a pretty cool job. It's pretty chill. You can just imagine if you're a Family Guy fan and have watched the various episodes where Stewie primarily and others make fun of Jews in sports, you get the idea that being a somewhat an expected athletic Jewish person is, well, first it's a slight oxymoron, but also it's a pretty cool gig.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, exactly. Not only does no one of the of your higher ups, your bosses, know what you're doing, but they can never prove if you're doing something wrong or completely making shit up on the spot and getting nice. That is my daily job.
Right? It's like, I don't, you're teaching the kids how to throw a ball, and someone comes to you and says, I don't think that's the way you throw the ball. It's like, are you the athletic director?
Yeah. Have you ever picked up a ball in your life? The answer 9 times out of 10 is no. And move along. Nothing to see here. Move along, people. Nothing to see here. Is that picture found throwing in a frog to the batter that he's trying to hit with a tennis racket? Why, yes, that is exactly what's happening. Do you see anything wrong with that? I'm not quite sure. Exactly. Move along, please. Move along. We're doing sports
Nothing
here.
to see here.
Because I know you're big into teaching youth kids and stuff like that. How did you get involved with starting with that summer camp? Were you a counselor there at some point? You just kind of stuck with you.
Right. So this camp, and I would have to say, well, I'll start at the beginning with me. I'm a teacher during the year. I've taught in various public and private schools, everything elementary through high school. And so I started working at this camp when I was just starting college and, had the summers free. And so this camp, Camp Ramah, at least the one in California, has an incredibly high retention rate of campers that become future staff members. As a matter of fact, 90% of the staff members in any given year were former campers there. Okay? And former campers you're allowed to be a camper for 7 years or more. But there are 7 distinct age groups. You start in 3rd grade through 10th grade. So, and pretty much they pool, or I should say they call all of the staff members and the prospective hires first from former campers once they age out, and then you're allowed to be formally a CIT at 17, And, so they look for the 17 and 18-year-old junior counselors, and they basically look from among the former pool of campers. So it's very interesting that I would guess, without knowing, I've worked at a few other summer camps, that statistic is around 50%, whereas, 50% of any group of staff members any given year were probably former campers. And so the fact that it's up over 90% at this camp is pretty wild when you think about it. So there's a lot of people who are first-year staff members and already, without having to learn anything, already know all the ins and outs of the camp. The trick is to teach them to work with kids. And that's one of the things I do now as a supervisor type role. So that's me. Just getting back involved in the camp. So I went there one summer, but I wasn't one of these kids. I'm kind of the exception to the rule that I just described. I did go there one summer when I was a young kid, only in third grade, the first eligible year. That's a normal camper. And didn't go back until I started working as a CIT when I was 17.
Huh. Yeah, I guess, so you were, so...
I was away for 10 years, basically.
Right, yeah, but it's great. It's very interesting that even though you've been away, you hadn't gone back since, you were a little kid, but then you still were able to get a job there, even with that 1 year, kind of experience.
Right. It helped that I had good recommendations. I had a lot of friends who had kept going, friends that I had in middle school, I did in high school, that kept going every single year that they were eligible as a camper. And then we're all excited to work their CIT year right after our junior year of high school back then. And so they said, hey, you should apply to, Camp Vermont. And I said, okay, can't hurt. And it was nice that originally I was waitlisted, but eventually I got on to be a cabin counselor at first. I was for the first 2 years, and then I moved on to being a specialist, usually in the athletic capacity. I was coaching baseball, tennis, different things. And then a few years ago, I moved up after the old athletic director retired, moved on and took over for his role.
See.
So that's my Vermont story.
And remind me again, how long have you been working there?
Everything that happened in Wet Hot American stuff is absolutely happened in real life.
Wait, what?
And I'm always saying this half kidding. Everything that happened in Wet Hot American Summer is very little exaggeration.
Very little exaggeration, okay.
Most of that pretty much happens at a real summer camp. I can't deny it. I can't deny it. If you haven't seen Wet Hot American Summer, that might be a movie review in the meantime.
Well, yeah, they have the. No, we haven't done that. Now they have the show too.
The show that came out.
Oh, they're on Netflix, right? Yeah, they turned it into a TV series.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't seen the show or the new one, but the movie is great.
Oh yeah, it's a classic movie. Gave a lot of people their start. Amy Poehler, that was the first big role.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, Paul Rudd or whatever, and
Paul Rudd looks the exact same.
Yeah. A lot of them did. It was 20 years ago now.
Do you when at this camp? Do you ever see? Do you see any? Do you see a lot of familiar faces? In terms of the kids that you worked with, previous summers and.
Yeah. So that is when everyone asks, why am I a 30-year-old still working at a summer camp? The number one reason is, hey, I'm a teacher during the year. I have the summers free.
Right. It's all about that money. That's all you teachers care about.
Oh, yes. And as you know, as a fellow teacher, we make shit wages, and we basically have to have some summer job, whether it's teaching summer school or otherwise. And so this works. I enjoy it, and I keep going back. But the main thing, the other reason, the personal reason, you can attest to this, the story that you were just telling me right before we came on live, is that occasionally you see your former students, if you're a teacher, come back and become leaders or teachers, educators, any type of professional capacity in their own right, and it gives you really a special and unique sense of pride. And in this case, just like a detail of the camp, that 90% of the staff come from the former campers. All of my former campers now, having been involved in this camp for more than 10 years as a staff member. There are campers that I had when they were, let's say, 11 or 12, and now they're already merging. Not only have they become staff members, but they're merging into senior staff supervisor positions. Some of the unit heads and department heads themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm working with, I have co-workers just a level below me that were my former cabin campers when I was their counselor when I was 20 and they were, let's say, 10. So it's a pretty funny experience. But also you do get, really, it gives you a lot of pride to see that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to like see them grow up and become become adults and that you helped shape them in some way, like to become good, upstanding citizens and adults. It's I do teaching as well, not maybe not like you guys do, but with church, I've been working with youth kids for a long time, and when you get to see them grow up and become good, just really good, strong people. It's definitely I felt like I played a part in that, so it's always that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, guys, I told you guys that story, so I guess now I'll share it with everybody else. But a few months back, I was at this grocery store, and this guy at the fish counter, kind of waves me over and it's like, "Hey, I know you." And I was just like, "What?" He's like, "You know me?" And then he's like, "Yeah, that used to be my teacher." And I was like, and then I really got freaked out. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he started like, "Oh, you used to teach at this place," and da da da. I was like, "Oh my god!" And I instantly remembered who he was, and then we kind of got to talking, and it's like, "Yeah, I'm in school right now, but I'm also working here part time. I want to get into sports medicine," and it was really cool, and it seemed, and he seemed like he had his life together, and he had a good head on his shoulders, and yeah, like you guys were saying, I can't help but feel, or I can't help but give myself the credit for his success, and so.
Exactly, it was all me.
I know, right? I damn near, I damn near twisted my shoulder trying to, pat myself. But yeah, it's
oh, you can't see with that hand. Right now, I'm tooting my own horn.
Look how great I am. Bow at my magnificence.
It's all about this guy right here.
Okay. Glad to see how you stayed so humble there, Dan.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, that's me. Yep.
Right, humble brags.
Yes, I practice humility in my everyday work, as you can clearly see.
Yeah. Well, there's one of the most interesting characters in literature, I think, was I don't know if any of you guys read David Copperfield by Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
One of the characters in there was the guy by the name of Uriah Heep, and he was always talking about how humble he was, he was always acted like everything about him was so humble, but it was more of look how humble I am. Come on, guys. And it's just
bragging about his humility.
Yeah, exactly. I laughed. It's just a funny kind of, I don't know why that reminded me of that, but it just, you're acting very much like you're right now. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He was like I guess the original humble bragger.
Yeah, exactly. So that was happening back in the 19th century.
Right. I know. He was the original. He did the best. Ask anybody.
Oh, so it's a nerdy ass humble brag joke there.
Yeah.
Right.
And people are probably on who are watching this or later. It's like,
who the hell is that?
Charles Dickens?
I know, right?
Most people are saying that.
It's like, who's this Dickens? The magician? The guy that was
Yeah.
wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever is watching this, if anyone, you need to go back to school, friends.
Well, and then even now, like I don't even know if people know David Copperfield, the magician. Like he's been out of the limelight for a long time.
Wait, who was that model that he was married to or dated? Elle McPherson?
Oh, is that who he was with?
I don't know. I just know that he like dated or married a supermodel from like like the '90s supermodels. When they were actually supermodels.
Well, Elle McPherson would be the one to go for back in the '90s.
Yeah. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's it.
I'd have to look that up.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, like I know we totally went what is it, Victorian on that humble brag joke.
Yeah.
That's just the quality of jokes that you get on the Circle of Jerks podcast.
You know me, I go nerdy or dirty is one of the two.
That's a good tagline for this podcast. It's nerdy or dirty. If it's at the same time, all the better.
Yeah, it's like
it's very.
they switched it around and made it talk nerdy to me.
Oh man.
I've even heard parody talk Jewish to me.
Talk Jewish.
Hello.
Wow. All right.
Oh, boy. Good morning, one and all. Hey,
Yes.
I saw a deal the other day at the supermarket, and I ussed it down 50%.
Easily the best Family Guy line
Yeah.
ever. I had to pause that episode because I was dying watching that.
That line, I mean, good morning, keepers and cheapers. That is brilliant.
Hebrews and Jews.
That is just
Oh man.
when you think you're Jewish, you think you know a few things about the faith, and you turn out to be a complete moron.
Also, we have those in the Christian community too.
Oh yeah, not any faith. That's why I said so. Yeah.
Word.
Anything going on with you, Andy?
Besides trying hard not to melt, as we are too, in this 100-degree heat.
I know. Jeez. Thank God I live in the West. Thank God for air conditioning. That's all I got to say.
Yep.
But,
Hey, at least I'm not swimming in Texas right now. I was swimming earlier at the beach. It's a lot better than swimming in your own house
Yeah.
or down your street.
Yeah.
When the freeways become rivers, oh boy, then you know it's bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
People were not driving cars across the freeways; they were driving motorboats and canoes.
It's like the people that are like nowhere near an ocean. It's like, why did you buy that powerboat?
Yeah.
I know, so just for these, I know that's kind of like the logic of my dad. It's like he'll hold on to something forever, and like that one time he actually does use it. He'd be like, "See, I told you I was gonna use it." And it's like it might have been like 20 years, but he finally found an occasion to use it. Still not worth the space that it takes up in our garage. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Who knows when we can use these buttons? Maybe something falls off a sweater.
It paid for itself one use, even if it took 20 years to get that one use out of it.
Oh my god.
Exactly. I know. My dad's hilarious like that.
Oh man.
Yeah, but other than that,
you've been working hard on we've been doing a lot of filming. You've been working hard on editing. I know that's been going on.
Yeah, I mean today I seriously almost threw out my back sitting in a chair all day because I ground out 3 up by up down videos today. So
Andy's literally breaking himself for you guys.
I know. You better appreciate this crap.
While sitting in a chair and on the computer.
I know. I'm sitting in a chair, with the air conditioning, sipping on some iced tea, making videos for you guys. I hope you appreciate this.
I think he Irished up that bourbon or that iced tea.
I've heard of Irish coffee. Irish iced tea, I like it.
Right.
Long
You haven't lived. I say, an Irish Long Island.
To be honest, I could go for a Long Island iced tea right now.
That's what it was. It was an Irish Long Island iced tea.
Damn, I was like rum and whiskey.
Damn those Irish coming over to Long Island. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
yeah, so that's what I've been with.
Well, I was gonna say is like for those who weren't here with us last week, our new show is up. We got the first episode out last Thursday. So it'll be coming out every Thursday. What 8 a.m. Andy?
Or yeah, I'll drop it early.
Is that what we have to set up for? Well, sometime Thursday mornings.
Thursday, regardless.
Yeah, so we got our second episode coming up on
This Thursday.
This Thursday, and it's a continuation of going back to the beginning, and that's kind of sharing my original gaming experience. And as we go further along, we're going to be doing like other games, like full playthroughs of stuff, and having fun, challenging myself. You'll see me curse at a lot of games, yell at games that piss me off. So it's going to be a great time.
It's this guy's aspiration in life to become the angry video game nerd because he already is.
Yeah, right. That was everybody's.
I don't want to disrespect James Rolfe like that because he's really awesome. I do like the angry video game nerd, but there are times where you can't help but yell at a game and tell it to go fuck itself every once in a while.
You cannot imagine the amount of times that as kids I saw this guy throw down the controller of whatever system he was playing on the floor, at the TV. The amount of controllers that this guy went through was insane. I can't even begin to count. Dozens and dozens of controllers, and that's per console.
Can't do that anymore. Those controllers cost like $60.
Yeah, I know. You can't just replace it for $5 or $10 now.
No. And they're not as durable as the NES controllers anymore either. Right. So that's the other problem.
Yeah, too damn sensitive.
It's good.
Too damn sensitive.
Yeah.
Isn't it great that you can throw this back into your parents' face? Especially back in the day when you'd say there's no such thing as a professional game player, and then now there's this. You can throw it back into your parents' face.
Not only is it a profession, but it's a legitimate professional sport. I mean, we can argue all day whether it's a sport, but it's an e-sport. They call it that. It counts.
I actually heard that the Olympics are considering having e-sport events.
I
guess
and
you can actually get a gold medal in you can actually get a gold medal in like Counter-Strike or Warcraft.
No, I'm dead serious. There are universities, mostly right now, it's just these small liberal arts colleges that are actually.
I think one of them is in Utah.
Or e-gamers.
Yeah, exactly. The scholarship, right?
There's a bunch of them I've heard of.
Yeah, I think there's one in Utah.
Yeah.
One in Utah.
I mean, that's all over the place. God damn, where was I? Like,
I know. We're in the wrong generation.
I know, we're in the wrong generation. We missed the boat. Or the boat wasn't even made yet.
The other thing that's crazy, in the NASCAR world now, one of the top stars, William Byron, he runs in the. He's come up through the ranks pretty quickly, and he's going to be taking over, a Cup Series ride here pretty soon. But he got his start, and they do what's called iRacing, which has become a professional, racing simulation. And a lot of these guys are getting their start in the iRacing series, and not just drivers either. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s spotter, TJ Majors, raced with him in the iRacing series, and Jr. liked him so much that he gave him a job spotting for him.
Oh, dang.
Insane. And that reminds me of Men in Black. I think the second one, where Will Smith is set to drive the car, and he can't figure out how to do it. And so he installs what's basically a PlayStation controller.
That's right,
and drives the car with a PlayStation controller as if he's playing Gran Turismo or something like that.
And that is just, thinking of that, it's like that's how NASCAR drivers are getting, seen and getting started, and that's crazy. And so gaming has really become, professional simulation kind of stuff is really taken off.
Merging into real life. Really is. Wild. What a world we live in.
Word. I think Yeah, I think in the earlier streams, me and Robert were kind of marveling at the world we live in now because we have all things that we never had growing up. Like even like this technology right now that we're using to stream this conversation, this show over the internet. It didn't exist. There's if we wanted to talk to someone or even see the other person's face, we had to go to their house or we had to actually meet them in real life. But now it's just you get onto your computer and then you whip up Skype or FaceTime or whatever, and boom, you're practically there.
It's the day. I sometimes think back to when we were kids, and a few years before the internet was a big thing. It had been invented, but it wasn't accessible from your.
Robert, you cut out there. The sound is out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you guys. Yeah, I can't hear you. Okay. Yeah. The sound has cut out, I think, on Robert's end. Let me see if I can't get it back up. I can't hear you guys. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Guys, I can't hear you. Guys, can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I think the sound went out. Yeah, I can't hear you at all. Can't hear you at all. Yes, while we wait for while we wait for them to get back, I guess I'll tell you about my day so far. Yes, if you guys are just joining the stream, I just what is it? I had just recounted my day, but I guess I'll recount it again. I spent most of the day what the? Oh, sorry guys, just working things out right now. Don't mind me. Robert, you there? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you too.
Yeah. Well, where did we cut out at?
What was it? God, I can't remember.
About how like far technology has gone.
Yes, that's what it was. That's what it was. We were marveling at the current age and the technology. You know, because what was it? 200 years ago, you know, people were sending pigeons and hawks and things like that to communicate over vast distances. But now, all we have to do is open up a magic box, and we're connected to anyone in the world.
Yeah, you get, and then you even have things like social media apps like your Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, and that's revolution. Well, you could say it's de-evolved communication in a way, but it's also like you gain better access to information and people, and there's still, I would say, good things to have. But sometimes when everyone has access to it, you get a lot of garbage that you have to sift through as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely lower, like, especially, 20 years ago, if you wanted to have a TV show, you have to go through, producers and executives and all this other stuff. But now, you just, you have a, decent web camera and a decent mic, and you have your own talk show on the internet.
True.
I mean, yes, it does significantly lower the bar for entrance, but I think it also incentivizes you to be good, to be a good show. And
right.
because you don't want to be just like every other show, but you want to stand out, and you want to be, have personality, and you want to have a voice, and so you do everything you can to distinguish yourself from everybody else. And I think in that way, technology has made things better, and even enabled people to do like collaborations or
right
or work together on things, even from vast distances. So
it's just I've always like kind of amazed like how far it's come, and it's like there was one point, like even up to a few years ago, where I felt like I kept up with like a lot of what's new and all that, and then now I feel like I'm starting to feel that out of touch feel just a little bit, and like what like all the new hip things to do are, all that stuff. It's kind of, I'm starting to feel a little old.
Don't I know? But nowadays I'm not too impressed with what I'm seeing. That's that in terms of like pop culture and things like that. I just it's just there doesn't seem there's not that that spark, that flavor that that was once there in artists or musicians or what have you. I mean, especially, particularly in the music industry. I'll admit there are a few songs that that I enjoy, and I'll bob my head along to on the radio. But generally speaking, especially a lot of the mainstream stuff. Let me differentiate. Like when I'm talking about music, I'm talking about mainstream popular music.
Right.
It's just it just doesn't do anything for me, and it's yes, it'll there's a song or two that'll make me bob my head and tap my toes a little bit, but if you ask me to tell you what the song was about, I couldn't tell you, because it was so generic, and it sounded like everything else.
Yeah.
And so
I think we've discussed this before, but like something that I don't like as much today with like some of the like modern artists is there doesn't seem to be as much effort or really incentive for like the entire CD to be good, or they figure if like
right.
they only need to have like one or two like hits.
Yeah. They'll have like their 2 or 3 like singles where you know it's a hit, but then the rest will be just kind of like filler. And like it's not anything. It's not anything special. It's just something there to fill out the rest of the album because the executives didn't want to. The executives didn't want to spend the money making an album that was only 4 songs of probably of the really grade A kind of material, but they didn't want to just spend their money for 4 songs, so they have you write 4 other like less quality songs to fill it out.
Right. And yeah, that's the where I don't blame them for doing that. I mean, it's like it's more it's a money thing where it's like I know I'm going to make my money off of these songs. They're very popular, and then the other ones are I don't know if they necessarily put as much effort into them, or if it's just more of like like the other ones they're not they're trying different. Maybe they're trying something different, or some maybe just don't care. But it's you look even I don't know, like 30 years ago, like most a lot of the albums, at least they like tried hard to make sure that everything sounded good. And there's still artists that do that. Especially people who are really well established. I think they do try at least try to put together like a full like good album. With it's with some success and some failure, a lot of failure in it.
Mhm. Right. What is it? Yeah, I mean, I remember when Adele first came out, and I loved her 19 album, and then and it was filled with like a lot of good songs, and then her 21 album came out, and again it was filled with great stuff. Great stuff. I mean, I haven't listened fully to her most recent album. I think it was 25. I don't know, but
I don't know.
But so I'm not gonna say anything about that. But yeah, those first 2 albums, they were great. They were filled with really good songs, and not just like the singles that you knew were gonna be hits, but you had you had really good substantial songs on that album, and yeah, I mean, it's just very rare nowadays where it's very rare that you have an album like that where like practically all the songs on it are great. But I guess that's like the new model, like, and like with the iTunes and Amazon Music and stuff, like where you could just pick and choose the songs you want, and
true.
And I guess that's the new model. It's like that, and I guess that way it takes pressure off the artist to try and just come out with something, but actually take some time and to really come up with something good and substantial.
Yeah. I will always tend to lean more towards the classic rock and all that stuff, but there's still good stuff out today. It's just it's not as doesn't come out quite as often.
Right. Yeah, and there's people that I listen to that that their careers were started like a long time ago, even before I was even born, but now because of social media, because of the internet, their careers are having they're having a rebound. They're getting their second wind, and it's great. Because as long as we're getting good music, and and I believe generally that's what's taking place. I think that's net good.
Well, we're coming up to, I think, a good point in the show to talk about our movie of the week, and in honor of Dan being here, one of his favorites is Mr.
Where is Dan, by the way? Is he still there?
He had to step out for a quick second. Yeah, he's still here, but he had to step out for a quick second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to bring it up so it didn't feel weird. Since you got back, we didn't like address it. So.
Oh yeah, Dan had to step out for a second. It's a little hot where we're doing our live stream, and we've kind of been sweating a lot all day. So he's just taking a quick break because he's not used to the lights being his.
Right, I know.
But he'll be back shortly. He'll jump in on the movie discussion here.
Okay. Well then, should we just get into it then?
Yeah, we'll get into it. He'll jump in.
Okay.
Hopefully.
All right. So, well, why don't you share with the good people the movie of the week?
Speaking of it, here he comes. So we're gonna we'll let Dan start talking about Mr. Holland's opus here, and Dan's back. Go ahead and lean in here. Yeah. So so our movie of the week is Mr. Holland's opus, one of Dan's favorites. So why don't you start telling Abe like a little bit about the movie, and then like why you like it, and the session kind of goes from there since you're not as familiar doing this with us.
Sure. So, in my opinion, Mr. Holland's opus, very underrated movie, might even be unknown to a lot of the viewers. It was one of the best movies, I think, of the 90s, and really one of just my favorite movies of all time. Richard Dreyfuss plays the lead, and he is a teacher, so you can see how it hits close to home for myself and for many others around here. And so he's a music teacher, gets a job at a local high school, and you see, and it starts, he gets the job, it's supposed to take place starting in the 70s or even late 60s. And and it's a generational movie, as in it starts following him closely for the first year, 2 or 3 of his teaching life at this high school, and then it starts going year by year, and you realize that he's been the teacher at the school for 10, 20, going on 30 years. And as well, it follows his family life, and it's just one of these case studies of really one character in a movie that's not done that often. I can't even think of another movie that really follows the main character throughout his entire professional life the way that Mr. Holland's opus follows Richard Dreyfuss as the music teacher, Mr. Holland, and it's really, the story of a teacher, in this case, a music teacher, and his life, his family life, his professional teaching life, his students, how he reaches out and really connects with certain students, has no idea what he's doing at times with others, gets into fight with even certain students, and it's just kind of the unheralded story of what it really means to be a high school teacher. So,
Richard Dreyfuss Abe is really great in that film, and you see like the struggles that he has with his family, and even some of the students. I know there was some of I think there was that one scene with one of the female students who tried
to seduce him. Yeah.
There was that.
So that happens as he's having slight marital problems.
Yeah, the worst time of it. He has his son becomes deaf very early on from just a kind of horrible incident.
Oh, I don't think that was the case. It could be. I remember exactly.
I thought that was.
I think that's when they discovered he was deaf at birth.
Yeah, and I thought that was
maybe it was.
He was deaf by that fire truck.
By the fire truck, yeah, during the
parade, because nobody covered his ears. Nobody had his ears.
Yeah, he slept. Yeah, the baby slept through that noisy part where all the other kids around them were crying and
covering
their ears because it hurt so bad. But then the mom knelt down. The mom knelt down and the baby was still sound asleep.
I think he was about 6 months old at the time, so they hadn't really figured out that he was born deaf. But I think that was the idea. Now, it means the same thing. However, he was deaf by the time he would have learned to talk at about a year or a year and a half old. They realized he was deaf and needed to learn sign language.
Yeah, and so that whole scene with his son and having to help him to learn sign language and all that,
and being a music teacher, a loving composer, and he was a music composer as well.
I thought that was the most tragic part about it. because like here's this guy that you know his whole life is about music, and you know he has a son, and you know he wants to share like he wants to share his love for this for music, but then he finds out that his son can't hear, and then then like there's like this distance that comes about because that he can't share this thing with that he loves with his son, so like this natural kind of distance kind of happens. And then, but I think towards the end when him and his son had that fight, and his son is like, oh, I could know music if you had taught it to me, but you didn't. So that's on you, not on me, because it's like I didn't because I didn't choose to be deaf. I didn't ask to be born not being able to hear. But you as the parent could have bridged the gap, and made my life and you could have enriched my life all the more. And and then when he goes to the special school and like he asks like for help, like, oh, how would I what'd be a good way to translate music visually, and then giving her the teacher was like giving him all these ideas, and then he had that special concert for all the deaf kids, and it's one of those scenes that gets you right here and right here.
I'm not much of a crier in movies, even really hard string pulling scenes, but that one where he sings "Beautiful Boy," which is the last song that John Lennon wrote before he died or was killed, that he sings that to his son while signing the lyrics. It's very special.
Yeah, because his son he was a fan of the Beatles, and like his son was hurt by the death of John Lennon, and it's like. That was kind of that starting of that scene with like how he was arguing with his dad about you could have taught me music, and it's like it's not like I wasn't affected by this guy's dying as well. I was a fan.
I knew who John Lennon was too, in 1980 when he was killed. So
right. So
and his son was a teenager at the time, supposedly in the movie.
So it was very powerful and like a lot of different scenes, like you were saying, going through his entire professional life. And how it affected himself personally, his family, his work life, and all the struggles that come through through several generations of teaching and living, which is it's very unique, and it's a great movie. Definitely worth a watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it now, and just going through it and like kind of analyzing it, it's like my present self. I can't help but like see like the subtlest of messages about how this guy he started teaching at this high school because he was waiting for something else, something better to happen to him, because he was a musician and he thought that. That, oh, this is just my temporary thing, to do in the meantime before I make it big as a musician. But, when that didn't happen, when other things started to happen for him, like, he had a child, and then, he was slowly beginning to get pulled more into the teaching job as opposed to the musician job. And and it wasn't until
he realized he couldn't give it up.
Like just like in real life, you have great, you have these grand plans for yourself. You have these grand plans for yourself, but then other things will happen and other things will come up, and it might take you away from your dreams, or it just might augment your dreams a little bit, because he wanted to impact people with his music. And in a way, he did that by being a music teacher and imparting his love for music onto these kids. And I think it was another one of those tear heartstring pulling moments is at the end when they're like giving him like his farewell, his retirement send off, and his past students came back to wish him a fond retirement and things like that. And it's like, and I think one of the line was like, oh, we are the notes. Like we, your students, are the notes to your the great symphony, your great opus. Your great life's work. We are the culmination of your efforts. And,
they were his composition,
exactly.
his orchestra.
Exactly.
It wasn't him writing something, but he wrote all of his notes were in those students. And something that I think since we're all kind of in some sort of teaching role in one way or another between the three of us, one thing that I was always taught as I was starting to get into this is that they may never remember everything you say or what you're teaching. I mean, you still have to do the teaching, but it's more what they'll care. What the students will know is that you care and that you care about them, and that's what that helps them go along. Eventually, sometimes the words will get in and they'll stick there, but the fact that you show up and yet you care when no one else does, that speaks volumes, and that's what helps kids get through tough times, especially because I deal with teenagers essentially from from about 13 to 18 or 19, and it's a rough time period, and there's a lot going on, and sometimes they just need to know that someone gives a damn about them, because they can't always talk to their parents, they can't always talk to even their friends sometimes, but finding a way to just show them that you care, that sometimes is enough.
Yeah, powerful stuff. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I know.
So,
it's very Mr. Holland's Opus, very underrated movie.
Yeah, that's why it hits us so well. I think the tagline of the movie, especially because this is a famous quote by John Lennon in the song Beautiful Boy, is that life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
Right.
Yep.
That just speaks volumes, both for the movie and, let's face it, for everyone's lives, whether you like it or not.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good, powerful note to end this stream on. What do you think, Andy?
I do agree with you. But before we go, let me just read one comment that we got tonight, and it's from a friend of the show, friend of the podcast, Dale Robb, and it reads, "Dodgers lost 1-5."
1 to 5.
1 to 5.
That doesn't sound right.
Well, it says Dodgers lost 1 to 5.
Mainly because I think the score was 7-6, which I happened to disappear in the middle of the podcast. Now you know why.
Yeah, it was like he said.
I said
Santa, you're right in theory, but I believe you have the score incorrect.
See, and now you make me look like an idiot. I was trying to be nice and say that you left because it was a little hot in here. You're not used to doing this, but it's no. The reality is, yes, he wanted to go see the score. And so I was trying to, cover
Robert here isn't wrong. I did leave because I was melting in here, but it's 100 degrees outside, by the way. When we started this podcast, it was 98 degrees at 9 p.m. at night. Think about that, jerks, before you start to criticize.
Yeah. No, I understand. I was trying to cover for
I know. Be grateful. We're roasting in our own juices here for your entertainment.
Yes. He's literally roasting in his own juices.
I'm melting.
I don't know, but yeah, Santa sent that that message a while ago. I just got to since it was towards the end, I thought I'd read it. So I don't know. It might have been a time when the Dodgers were losing, but now I guess I don't know. I guess they won or they're winning.
They were losing 5-1.
Yeah, it was kind of a seesaw type of game that I think Arizona ended up winning, but. Yeah,
okay.
Kind of. We haven't lost 3 games in a row since June, so I think we're gonna be okay.
I'm not a huge baseball fan, but the Dodgers doing pretty well this season. It seems like they are because I keep hearing about.
That's
yeah. I mean, we're talking about they're on pace to have the 3rd best record of all time in the
117
years of Major League Baseball.
Yep.
Wow. All right.
So pretty darn good. I think this is finally the year.
Yeah. Do you think they're gonna make it to the series?
I hope so. It's been 30 years since they've even made it to one.
Yeah, but even like the way that they're winning some of the games, like where they're coming back and the offense, they're scoring guys in. The bullpen is pretty solid again. Starting pitching seems pretty solid. I think we're good to go this season.
All right.
I think that was one of the few predictions I had. Right, that the Dodgers would win the NL West at least. But now, as far as World Series prediction, that's
what did you pick way back in the first?
Let's not talk about this
episode?
right now. That's another podcast topic for another day because I don't want to talk for another.
If I remember who my predictions were, which I can't promise that I do remember, I think they're both still alive and are at least going to make it to the playoffs. So still a chance.
Yeah,
I think you guys have to go and review episode 2 of the regular podcast to see how you guys did.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of the Family Feud strikes on my answers for predictions.
Yeah, we'll have a side-by-side wrap-up of how good were your Circle of Jerks podcasters in their Major League Baseball predictions. Let's just put one sound to it.
I'm gonna do a side-by-side. I'm gonna do
10 of my predictions correct. Yeah, guys, go ahead and check out Mr. Holland's Opus. Great movie, especially if you're a teacher. Definitely one to watch. Stay cool out there if you're on the West Coast. If you're in Texas, stay dry and safe. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes.
That's our podcast for tonight. Thank you for joining us, you lovely jerk faces. Do it again. Let's do this again next Tuesday. Regular time?
Yeah, regular time.
Regular time, 8 p.m. Regular time. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Circle of Jerks podcast YouTube channel. Give it and also make sure that the little bell icon is switched on so you can get notifications when we upload videos and when we do when we do the Nocturnal live stream. Follow us on our social medias, Twitter at podcast COJ and on Instagram at Circle of Jerks podcast. I think that's about it.
And if you follow us on Twitter and Instagram, we will follow you back. And if Twitter, I will contact you, and we can have a discussion.
Yes, Rob will become your personal stalker.
Yep.
So you have that to look forward to.
Looking at you, Cactus Cooler.
Yeah.
Nocturnal.
Right. This is
Cactus Cooler.
Yeah.
Please follow us, Cactus Cooler. We will definitely follow you.
Cactus Cooler, the unofficial official drink of the Circle of Jerks podcast.
Right.
Yeah, sponsor us. We'll do you right. We'll do you right.
We will sell out.
All right, this is getting great. All right, guys. Later.